Well, good evening. This is Dr. Hungerford. Tonight, we're going to be going over Module 3 and the assignments and just some of the key points that we're going to be looking at in the leadership theory. So let me go ahead and share a slideshow that I put together to help us navigate through this here real quick. There we go. Okay, so this is going to be behavioral and situational leadership theories. Here are the assignments for Module 3. So for chapters 4 and 5, what you have here for the assignments, the part 1, part 2 for the module assignment, it's word for word what you actually have in the module in Canvas. But one of the things we're going to look at here is some of the specifics. And a lot of you sort of stumbled on this a bit on when you're submitting the cover page, it's got to be in APA format. So go to figure 2.2 of the seventh edition of APA, and it's got a picture there of what this would actually look like. I think even in some of the feedback that I provided, even an internet link to be able to show you how in Word to be able to set it up. The one thing here it says write at least a one-page response, but the challenge with this is one page means if that's just what you got, and that's a lot of information with these questions that are here, that you only have one page. Well, you're not going to be able to develop your paragraphs appropriately to be able to support things. It would almost be a miracle to get an A on something like this. You get a C if you're able to do some of the types of things. So anyway, um, also, we're needing citations. So whatever it is that you read out of Norhouse or any other places, we're needing to be able to see those and have those integrated. Basically, in the post that you did, Matt, you guys did great with the citations and stuff. So trying to understand if maybe somehow there was some miscommunication or something, or a history of not having for you guys to do that with the module assignment. So I'm going to check into that with the department there at Schreiner. So let's get down to chapter 4 of the behavioral approach. So overview, basically, the behavioral approach focuses exclusively on what leaders do and how they act. Okay. Reasons for developing the theory. Well, it's sort of like what we had talked about in previous sessions. Other leadership theories, the great man, the traits, the skills, you're trying to figure out how do we how do we develop a leader and stuff. And so what they decided, well, what are we wanting a leader to be able to do rather than how are they a leader? And so this is what they're trying to do, identify what the behaviors are of the leader. So this is a very leadership focus, not a follower focus type of thing. Um, so this really started to become into effect and in scholarly circles, I'd say probably in the 1940s, 1950s and stuff. So anyway, I just included information here from other sources as well behind Nordhaus. Also, I just need to sort of caveat it. You see it says Nordhaus 2015. That is actually from his seventh edition. I just haven't updated these slides on this here. Now, what ended up happening is you had the University of Idaho or Iowa do some studies. A couple of the scholars there, Lewin and Lippitt, in the late 30s, built some, hey, what are some distinctive leadership behaviors? And then Ohio State, about a decade later, they basically looked and like, okay, so these guys at Iowa did this. What are some of the things they may not have been looking at? And the big thing that they developed is what they call the behavioral questionnaire for leaders, 150 question thing. Norhouse, in the end of the chapter, actually has, it's not the 150 questions, but it's been boiled down a little bit. Okay. Well, now a little few years later, Michigan started getting some other scholars doing some things. And you'll even see Likert from like the Likert scale. You probably have seen some of that. Other scholars you may be familiar with, Katz and Kahn, and you've seen them if you are in education. You've probably seen these names before. Now, one of the more prevalent theories that's or sub-theories of behavioral approach is theory X, theory Y. And uh, it's sort of a little type of a different type of theory. Uh, but anyway, he was looking at it from more of a corporate perspective of what are the behavioral expectations. So you'll run into some of this. You've already talked uh, on some of these that were up through like the 60s. You'll see that it's continued on actually all the way till about the turn of the century. We're different people. Now, one of the more interesting approaches and probably the behavioral approach that is now the most recognized is Blake and Mooten, and we'll look at what we call a behavioral leadership grid. In fact, here we go. So really what it tries to do is it looks at five different, I guess, corners or types of leadership: country club, team management, impoverished management, authoritarian, and middle of the road type of thing. And what they do based upon questions, they sort of put you on here. Now, there is a tension that's here. They're looking at things: concern for people and concern for results, or in the Air Force, concern for the mission is what we talked about. So what we basically have here in the country club management side of the house is we have low concern for results, but a lot of concern for people. The authoritarian complex type of thing, we have a lot of concern for the results. Okay, don't care about the people so much. And obviously, middle of the road is it's going to be a 5 and 5. You can see it goes 1 through 9. You can read more in detail on the ninth edition in our house on page 183 on that. Now, other behavioral approaches and stuff, it sort of takes that task and that relationship type of thing. And there is an interaction in this. And so this is really sort of what like uh, a few scholars have sort of tried to, how do we marry these things together? And when is it more important to be more task oriented than people oriented and vice versa? So this is a way to sort of theoretically wrestle with that. And that's just an illustration of it. Strengths and weaknesses. Okay. Um, really, it broadens the Academy of Leadership. It looks at it from a different perspective instead of what are the skills or what are the traits or are just people born. Like, well, let's forget all of that. What is it we want people to be able to do? And what it does is it provides a sort of good map on, hey, if you are running a country club, well, we want the country club behavior. If you're in a combat zone in the military, well, you better not be a 9 on the relationship scale. You got a mission to accomplish. So that actually starts bringing up other things. And this is the situational thing that we're talking about here. Um, so the biggest criticism is this: there's no universal behavior that's effective in all situations, which is they did this for a while, and that's one of the Achilles heels, which is why now somebody came up with we call situational leadership, which you'll read about in chapter 5. Application, great for ongoing leadership settings and can be applicable to all levels of organizations. But probably the best thing to be able to do is through the question thing that they have, the grid. It really helps to assess how well are you doing as a leader? What type of leader am I? And a lot of training organizations and companies will use this sort of help determine what type of leader it is that we want. And a lot of organizations I've been part of, we've had to look at, okay, where's our organization going? What's the best way to get there? What's the best type of person to be able to get there. So you may have someone that's very, very skilled from a leadership perspective and outstanding results in other organizations. But because of the behavioral approach that they would take, they would not be a good fit. This is why this leadership theory can be very helpful. Okay. So the situational approach. Again, just a real quick overview, but like, why did they develop it? Well, because they realized the behavioral and the other approaches were, mm, well, we had to consider the situation. Okay. So we'll take a look at this here. You do not have nearly as many contributors, but you'll see that the first behavioral approaches were in the late 30s, and then about a decade later, a few more, then a couple of more. And by the early 60s, especially with McGregor, he was coming out a lot of things and stuff. But we're really talking about nearly 30 years later, someone has gone like, okay, so let's look at the situation problem here. And so you had Redden do a lot of this, sort of open the door. Hershey and Blanchard, it really, they continued to evolve on what this should look like. And I'll even show you some of the history of that that's actually not in Norhouse's book. Okay. You can see Blanchard continued to work at this for in 85, 93, all the way up to 2013. So he was continually, he really is sort of the father and the patriarch of this theory of leadership. Okay. So here's what he's looking at is, okay, let's look at the situation because we saw with the country club manor and then with the other, down here in the middle of the road, well, okay, how do we do this? What are the leadership styles? So let's look at some of the axes here. Leadership style, what is the supporting behavior? So that's more, I'm not people oriented, but I am people oriented all the way over here. Over here, low mission focus, high mission focus. So you can see, took some of the same ideas. So if I am in the behavioral mindset, and notice that they're using the same corner and stuff for the like military, I'm going to direct you. You need to go out and battle and do this now. Okay. So what type of leadership behavior or style is what they're talking about in that situation do I need? Okay. This is why so many military leaders are directing. Okay. Now you need someone that is the people are going to be directing and they're not going to be people. Okay. Now over here, what's going to end up happening is I'm going to be more, people oriented, but I'm still going to be high task oriented. So you're going to be coaching people. So you're not going to be the one that's going to be out there in the football field, but you are going to be dictatorial in a way of look at, you need to go do it. You need to take the line or you need to hold the line, but then coach them, get in their heads and walk them through that. So that's the coaching leadership style in a situation that demands something like that. Okay, country club type of thing. Well, it's just pretty much going to be, hey, we're here to support you, customer service. Okay. And then the delegating type of things here. Low support and low directive behavior. Really, what as a leader as you've done is you've delegated it. So really, we can look at it from this perspective as well, too. If I got somebody that is just new to leadership and just doesn't have a clue. And let's say the organization is still the same. Okay. And let's say that it is sort of like you're a manager at like an In-N-Out burger. Um, I'm in Salt Lake City this week on the road. Got an In-N-Out burger that's just like right in the parking lot here. And that's where I had dinner. Okay. So very fast paced, high volume and stuff. So if I'm going to have a shift manager as the store manager, that shift manager I'm going to be doing a lot of directing, especially in high traffic situations and stuff. But as the individual starts to grasp things a little bit, my leadership behavior is going to go like, okay, remember, you here are the basic things I keep telling you and stuff. You're doing a pretty good job on that. You just sort of forgot this and this. So you remind in your coach. So now it goes and migrates from directing to reminding, coaching thing. And then as they're becoming a little more familiar with things and they're really starting to get it, every once in a while they just may sort of stub their toe a little bit. And so, hey, look, it that happens to the best of us. When this happened to me, here's what I sort of did, to be able to bounce back. After a while, they got it. Man, they can start training people and you delegate that responsibility. I don't have to worry about this manager and stuff. So these are the types of things here. So you can see the development level here, high commitment, but they're not competent. D2, low to some competence. Okay. So your commitment level, decreases a little bit and so on and so on. So really it just picks up from the behavioral leadership approach. And it really looks at it's looking at the leadership behaviors, but it's categorizing them. How do you move people through? That's the beauty of this model here. Okay. So, like I said, there's a lot of history here. So, Hershey and Blanchard, 1969 version, they just identified the four quadrants. Okay. Low task, high task, low relationship, high relationship. Looks really strangely familiar to the behavior model. Well, then about 8 years later, they sort of updated some things. And so they are a little more specific on, the different quadrants and then how are people moving through the quadrants. And it wasn't until like about 13 years later that we start seeing this type of thing. Those of you guys that have been around in team leadership settings, you have the old telling, selling, participating, delegating. The only thing that's left is the delegation type of thing. Okay. And then 3 years later, they color coded it. And then they came up with the terms that we are actually using now. Okay. And then you can see nearly 20 years later, same types of things, but they more developed. We're a little clear on some of these things, but most of the stuff really was pretty much the same. And then what we see in the textbook here, okay, I don't remember when this one came out, but it very well could be just an iteration or a less colorized version of the 2013. And that's highly probable because that's the last time that, according to my sources, I haven't looked in the last couple of years, that Blanchard actually did the publication. So Blanchard is all over it. His fingerprints are unescapable here. Okay. So how does this model actually work? They call it the SL2 model work. Well, constructed around the ideas that followers move forward and backward along the development continuum. So that's what you're trying to do as a leader, move people through. Okay. And it also has this contention that the leadership outcomes are a direct result of how competent that the leader is in being able to direct people, coach, support, and delegate people to particular responsibilities. So it looks at the situation, but then it looks at this leadership styles or behaviors that really is more specific and detailed than what the behavioral leadership model has. So how is it applied typically? Well, trainers like to use it. Okay, so if you're in training in the corporation, this is how we get other people in the corporation to move through. Can be applied really at pretty much at any level of an organization from the CEO as you're grooming people up to a production lead. And again, can be used at almost anywhere in an organization. Okay, strengths. It has stood the test of time because it actually does look at the situation and the leadership behaviors. Um, but here's some of the funny things about it. So it looks good, sounds good, takes different things into account, but for some reason, people actually haven't done really quantitative or qualitative studies on this. Um, it's ambitious assumption as of the different subordinate development levels. You're only looking at four things, and you know, people are a little more complex than that, and so they're going like, maybe there's more to some of these things here, and so those are just some of the things to really consider in looking at this. Okay, so that's the two leadership theories. Okay, so let's get back to what I was talking about somewhat in the beginning. Look at some of the writing challenges when we're looking at the papers here. Again, I had already mentioned the title page where you're able to go ahead and find that. Uh, Headers and other formatting and stuff, that's going to be really important to be able to do this. You know what? I am just going to bring up this in here. Okay, so this is actually, let me see if I can get this a lot bigger for you guys. Oops, come on. It's not wanting to get any bigger. How strange. Usually lets me do this. Okay. Well, so starting on page 60 of the seventh edition, it'll actually have a student paper. So it'll show you what does it look like. Now, it will go through and actually identify the paragraph number. So if you're needing the details on this, you can go to that detail. Couple of things I noticed. Some of you guys did bold the headline here. Some of you did not. Another thing is the page number needs to be here. Other of you have been used to the running header of what the name of the paper is. Okay. A couple of you guys that did put headers in, the headers actually have to be bolded, and there's even subheaders. So the main headers have to be bolded and centered, but the subheaders also need to be bolded as well too. Okay. All right. Let me get back here. Paragraph structure. I saw a lot of two and three sentence paragraphs, and yes, you can get away with three sentences in a paragraph, but you're basically all you're going to be able to do is usually your first paragraph is introducing a topic. The following sentences are going to develop the topic, and the last sentence is going to sort of summarize and or introduce the next topic and stuff. So here's what I suggest. Again, first sentence, introduce. Second sentence, third sentence, you basically be able to go ahead and what did your reading say? Cite those types of things. Fourth sentence, maybe use an opinion or what you have taken out of it personally. Fifth sentence, sort of summarize everything that you've learned. Sixth sentence, take what you talked about in that paragraph and use that as a bridge to build on to the next paragraph. And if you then start doing this when you have six paragraphs all the time, or six sentences per paragraph all the time, that's going to get boring as well too. There are going to be some paragraphs all you do is need three sentences, but there might be some paragraphs you might need eight, nine, 10 sentences as well. Okay. Um, Now, citations. You need to have a citation that actually is going to be meaningful. Like, is this a work or is this, whether it's a paper, whether it is like Norhaus, is this a scholar that actually is, authoritative in this particular area, or is this a leadership blog that you found? If it's a blog, nine times out of 10, it's going to be worthless. Well placed. Is it actually supporting what it is that you say. All right. And is it's recent. So one of the things in scholarly writing that you need to look at is you need to have some of your references that are within 5 years. Yes, you're going to have the old standard things. You're going to have the Blake and Moutons. You're going to have, the Blanchard and Hersey's. You're going to have Carlisle. You're going to have a lot of those things. Even some of the stuff that Norhouse has written. But one of the things that you can look at with Norhouse and even with Blanchard, they continue to write, they continue to evolve. What is the most recent thing that is in the field? So you have to consider that as well too. Okay. Um, so you're going to see in the rubrics that I sent you citations a lot. So, and here's the reason why is they're supporting everything that you say. And the quality of their citations is really going to look at the quality of the learning. So, one of the things that I learned, and I thought at first this was sort of stupid, but my professors in my doctoral program, they said that the first thing that they do when they graded papers was they went and looked in the back at the references, at the citations. Why? Because they wanted to see the level of work that we did and who it is that we actually cited. Was it, Mickey Mouse or was it Norhouse? Okay. So if it was a lot of Mickey Mouse stuff, then no matter how well the paper was put together, 9 times out of 10, they'd give us an F and stuff because we didn't really go to the sources that had really worked hard at it. So one of the other things too on citations, and I didn't put this on here, but it just came to my mind, is this. So typically APA format, you're going to have the person's last name, comma, and then the year. But I'm going to challenge you guys to go beyond that, to actually go to a particular page number, not on all your citations. Okay. Doctoral work, they're going to do that. For you guys, I just want you to get in the habit, maybe do it once or twice. Okay. Those are sort of going to be the gravy things. And so that way, what it really shows me is you took the time to really go into the work and find the page and stuff. So that's the important thing. So you're not in a bachelor's program, you're in a master's program. And this is uh, ethical leadership. And so, really, how you write, who you cite, that's an integrity issue. And so, your writing is really going to be an outflow of what the whole intent of this course actually is. So, you might be thinking, man, this Hungerford dude is really off the chain. He's really looking at things at a lot deeper level. Well, that's true. But my job is to help prepare you for success. And they're going to be, and again, I'm not an APA Nazi. Okay. I hate it. All right. But like I had mentioned before, if you got a great paper, but you haven't taken the time to dig in to do the format type of stuff, people that are the bean counters and the grammar Nazis and stuff like that, they start seeing a couple of those things, they won't even get beyond that. They won't even take the time to look at all the work that you did. And it could be the great plan, idea, whatever. So this is just keeping opening the door, keeping a foot in the door, and looking from a credibility perspective. Structuring paragraphs is really critical as well too. You got to build your support, and it's got to be built logically. And that's hard to do that with 2 or 3 sentences consistently. Does that mean you're going to have to go beyond the assignment minimum? Yes, that's what it means in many instances. But if you're okay with the C, then that's okay and stuff. Um, but I expect that you guys or suspect that you guys are in the program because you're wanting to learn, you're wanting to, do the best that you can. So with that being said, so you can see I have personalized the grading rubric. Every one of you guys have these. And at the bottom of the Excel spreadsheet, every class or every assignment, I will go ahead and add in there so you can sort of see a theme throughout, where am I consistently doing well and where am I consistently, being challenged and stuff. And, that takes a little more time for me to do it that way, but I think it's a way to provide you the best feedback and the fairest feedback as well, too. So if you have any thoughts or comments on that, just let me know. Okay. Um, Again, if you have any questions on the assignments, the reading materials, the grading, or any other questions, feel free, let me know and stuff. I'm hoping at some point, some of you may jump on to be able to just, answer some questions and be able to get to know you guys a little bit better as well, too. So, with that being said, uh, I guess that'll be it for this evening. So next week, we will not be coming live from Salt Lake City, but live from Phoenix. And then the week after that, live from Washington, D.C. So they got me on the road quite a bit the last few weeks. So anyway, just trying to have these be helpful and just provide me some feedback if you guys are liking these things or if there's something else that you're wanting me to be able to incorporate into these sessions each Monday. So again, thanks so much and visit with you guys next week. Good night.